The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Tim Porter from Urjanet. We are doing some final configuration of the webinar broadcast here. So if you'll just hold on for 1 minute, we'll get started here in just a minute or two.
Thank you, everyone. This is Angela Kassler with the Sustainability Management Association. Thank you if you needed to log back in. I do appreciate you rejoining the call. We're just experiencing a few technical issues, and we will be right with you. Welcome everyone to the call. Just in case we could start over again and start the recording over again, we thank you very much for your patience and thank you so much for joining the webinar today. My name is Angela Kassler. I'm the CEO of Sustainability Management Association, and here's my contact information if you'd like to get a hold of me. We hold webinar series for sustainability webinars called Transforming Leadership to really highlight the ways our organizations today are really transforming the field of management and leading the way and showing people how we can manage for people, planet, and profit. Our organization, we truly believe in innovation and technology. Today's webinar will really highlight some of the ways that organizations are creating solutions that we all need to manage our utility metrics, our solid waste metrics, our CSR metrics, and be able to seamlessly report those and meet our strategic goals. We're an organization whose purpose is really based on education, that we really like to highlight and disseminate the knowledge, skills, and abilities needed to manage effectively for sustainability. And we hope that one day that people like you and I will create sustainability as a management norm. We have 3 services for the Sustainability Management Association. The first is membership, and we are the best professional network that we hope you will agree with. And we also are an educational body where we offer a certification called the Sustainability Management Certified Professional. And these are for professionals who are engaged in sustainability projects, energy, water, waste, CSR, financial responsibility, and ethics. If today's presentation is for continuing education and you have an existing certification, please feel free to reach out to me and I can go ahead and send you a continuing education credit for today's webinar. Our members hail from 35 states across the country and also from 18 countries around the world. And we're very proud of the ways that our membership is transforming leadership to be able to make a difference in our daily lives and how we use products and services. Certified sustainability managers will be leading organizations and are leading organizations with strategies that really surround a focus of a healthy society, environment, and economy. And how we do that is through our knowledge, skills, and abilities of really forming a strategy, drilling down through our organization to build a culture of sustainability, and being able to learn the metrics that really matter to be able to know what projects are short, medium, and long term. Our study guide, if you'd like to learn more about sustainability, is a really practical guide with tools you can use right away to be able to manage for sustainability, and it teaches you some really good ways and tips on how to manage sustainability. Please feel free to contact me again for a CEU credit today, or to join our organization, or to learn more about certification. If you'd like to join us on our next webinar, it's scheduled for April 25th with the American Association of Airport Executives, and we'll be hosting speakers from Los Angeles Airport, San Diego, and San Francisco. And I hope to see you at Environmental Leader on May 15th through the 17th in Denver, Colorado. And so if you'd like to join us, you can use our discount code at promo code A5. And so today, our speakers, I'm very proud to introduce you to two speakers who are presenting 6 proven dashboard views to drive sustainability results. And we truly believe that we can build cultures of sustainability by making sustainability easy, manageable, and to be able to use information. And so today's business intelligence will really help you to understand how you can take your project initiative and help streamline that. I'd like to introduce you to our speakers today who are transforming leadership. Tim Porter, he's our Global OEM and Partner Sales Director with Urjanet. And Ellen Shea is our Sustainability Advisor with UL EHSS. And I hope that you enjoy today's presentation. During the presentation, please make sure to chat any comments or feedback for our speakers into the chat box that you'll see on your toolbar. And the last 15 minutes or so of the presentation we'll reserve for Q&A. So thank you, and if you could let me know if at Urjanet if we're ready to go.
Great. I think we're all set. Angela. Thank you so much for that introduction. This is Tim Porter with Urjanet, and I am very excited to be a part of this panel today and really interested in seeing the dashboard examples that you'll be detailing here in a minute for us, Ellen. But before we dive into some of the specific examples that you're going to show, I thought it would be good to start with a quick overview of the benefits that the combination of good data with some really visual dashboards can bring to a sustainability program. We've seen lots of companies take a variety of approaches to their sustainability efforts, but when dashboards are employed, by and large, these are some of the most common benefits that people tell us that they realize. There are really 3 categories. The first is buy-in with the internal stakeholders. I'd venture to say that the notion of having a department of sustainability and even dedicated sustainability experts on staff as a part of the organization is still an emerging concept. I think Angela mentioned that in her preface. It would be great to get to the point that this does become a business standard, but I think it's evolving, and it's certainly grown quite a bit in the last 5 years. But in particular, it's starting to work its way down from the largest corporations into the medium and smaller sized businesses as well. But often finding funding and getting buy-in from the organization itself to make investments in this area is a constant struggle, an annual struggle. So the easier it is for stakeholders to view information, the easier it is to get their buy-in. So visual dashboards versus old-fashioned reports. The old adage that pictures are worth 1,000 words really hold true for sure in this world of sustainability as well. It really helps spread the enthusiasm within the organization for the sustainability efforts that you're trying to get sponsored. The second benefit is that it helps with showing performance against a clear set of goals. All organizations are results driven, and the area of sustainability is no different. And setting the goals for the organization is a lot easier to do if you have a way to measure your performance against those goals. So setting targets versus baselines, or looking at year-over-year progress, or seeing what progress you've made towards mandated objectives that maybe you're in a municipality where there's some goals that you're obligated to reach. So having a way to present your performance against those goals also really helps you continue the support that you're getting from the organization. And finally, the other category we often see as a big benefit is helping pinpoint specific areas for improvement. So one of the biggest benefits of easily visualizing performance versus your goals is to help make it obvious what things need to be worked on. So, an example might be a national map of sites with different sized dots that show performance in a specific category, and make it easy for people to see that, wow, if I'm the biggest dot on that map, maybe I need to do something about my specific location. So pinpointing those types of effective areas for improvement is really another big benefit. So I think those are kind of general categories of benefit that people typically see, but it's also worth pointing out that dashboards in general themselves typically fall into one of two levels of granularity, either a strategic or executive level of dashboard or presentation. And this is high level overview data. This is really important for stakeholder buy-in. It's really important for sponsors to be able to see what it is that they determine to be the important metrics for them to water, or the key business indicators that they care about. But then on the other end of the spectrum, dashboards can also help a great deal with the analytical aspect of sustainability. So these are the dashboards and the reporting that your actual down in the weeds sustainability experts will find really valuable, looking at more detailed, granular information, helping create tactical plans and not just overview, kind of looking through rear view mirrors on what it is that you've performed in the past. So with that kind of overview in mind, I think it's time to hand it over to you, Ellen, to show us some real examples. And at this point, I'm going to let you take it away and show us some real dashboards.
All right, thanks so much, Tim. Just kind of a preface before we dive into some of these dashboards is that it's important to note that the data and metrics on today's dashboards are really only a sampling of what you could display and show to your end users and your key stakeholders. A lot of these dashboards will cover an array of metrics that are collected and managed by a lot of the clients that we have over at UL and who I've worked with in the past. And also realizing and determining that the key metrics for data collection can be very daunting, we actually do have a more out-of-the-box approach to key sustainability metrics and key performance indicators that are based around the GRI framework. So if you would like more information around that, just put a comment in the comment box and we can send you some additional information after the webinar. With that said, we'll just dive right into this. So one of the important things that Tim mentioned was to earn buy-in from your internal stakeholders, and it's especially important with highly complex data and really allowing the audience and personas that you're working with to benefit from the dashboards that you are displaying for them. The goal to any effective, useful dashboard is to really interpret specific quantitative data into a digestible view where it could be very easily understood and really highlighting the company goals and targets. In this first dashboard that we're looking at here, it may look like a lot of information, but it really gives a really good summary overview of some key components of overall energy usage. First, we're looking at actual consumption, so breaking that out by electricity and the different fuel types. You also see that in the gray boxes of this bar chart, it's projected consumption, and within the peer system, we're actually able to build in estimations using different logic. In this instance, we're looking at extrapolations based around average consumption rates based on facility type. You also know that this compares consumption from the prior year, so allowing the individual to see how the current year measures up against the same period previous year. And finally, on the left-hand side, you'll see general trends of overall usage of the different components of total energy use, giving us a very high-level indication of how consumption is trending. So in the summary dashboard, it's a strategic view in the sense that it gives you a good overview of where the organization stands, but provides enough detail to paint a picture of a pretty complete overview of the energy consumption over the last year. It's also beneficial for energy managers to see at a summary level how the organization is doing, because it is likely that the energy manager is the one that is putting together this dashboard for an executive to review, and also the Office of Sustainability for the team to really understand where the consumption and different sources of the CO2e are coming from in the organization's environmental footprint. As we go into the next two dashboards, we're going to go into a little bit more deeper dive into specific metrics that are displayed on this energy usage dashboard, where the personas and audience will change based on the granularity of data. So if we could go to the next slide, please. All right, for electricity usage. We're looking at a very high level information, but as mentioned prior, this dashboard displays much more specific key performance indicators that are around electricity and your scope 2 print. From this, you'll see that we'll taking a look at electricity consumption, which includes both purchased electricity and renewable energy. And you'll also see that we have normalized values based around full-time employees. And what this dashboard can do is really bring to light the performance of by month to month or by site, depending on how specific of a region you do want to review. It can ultimately help inform your procurement strategy. And this is particularly helpful when looking at electricity because it can help shape the business case around clean energy initiatives that you have, such as the purchase of RECs or PPAs. And depending on what is material to your organization, executives might find that the granular view is important for strategic decision making, which is why executives may find this beneficial. But because of the granularity of the data, primarily this would probably be used for a property level manager in addition to the sustainability team. Next slide, please. All right, so once again, diving into a little bit more granularity towards the data that we are just looking at. As I mentioned in the previous slide, renewable energy was a component of total electricity usage. For this particular dashboard, we're looking even more deeper into specific metrics around that. So renewable energy breakdowns and how that kind of is part of the greater picture of the total energy usage and where it's being used in the scope 2 of the organization's footprint. You can see from here, it's broken down based on percentage. And for this particular view, it can vary on global region, and there can be benefits of viewing this on a global to regional level as different types of renewable sources are more prevalent in global regions than others. And while this is pretty specific information, it can again inform clean energy strategies and help someone in an energy management position to really determine which renewable energy sources to continue to pursue and which ones to sunset based on efficacy and price. Next dashboard, please. All right. So in this dashboard, we're looking at much more analytical data that is catered towards individuals who, one, really understand the nuances among the different GHG scopes, and two, are particularly in charge of the organization's greenhouse gas accounting. For this dashboard that looks at scopes 1, 2, and 3 emissions in a global view, but we also have the option to dynamically change something, the view that we're looking at right now, into a regional perspective. So you can see on the far right, we have what's called a region picker that is specific to the Pure platform. This really allows the individual who is reviewing this dashboard to have a much more granular view, looking at specific areas of the world and seeing how the emissions are broken out from there. Just as a high level, to kind of give everybody some context, Scope 1 is the generation of electricity, heat, or steam by the combustion of fuels in stationary sources. Scope 2 is the generation of purchased electricity that is consumed in owned or controlled equipment. And Scope 3 are activities owned or controlled by other entities upstream or downstream in the value chain. So really the different kind of the gamut of the different energy sources that can be used for any business operation within your organization. In the Pure platform, as I mentioned, we have the drill down option of looking at data from either a global view or a much more drilled down specific regional view, as I mentioned to the right-hand side. And this is particularly important when you're looking at region-specific factors, such as electricity in Scope 2, and also having the benefit of, it's not displayed here, but also having the benefit of looking at how within that scope, say we're looking at Scope 1 or Scope 3, looking at the different components and how the different metrics that kind of roll up into the total Scope 1 or Scope 2 or Scope 3 indicators to see how those break out by percentage within your total environmental footprint. And as carbon accounting is progressing to be more granular and more technical, especially with country-specific protocols, this would be more important for not just the energy manager, but also the Office of Sustainability. So the audiences are really kind of catered towards that, since it is much more highly technical information that not very many people within the organization would know or would be necessarily interested in seeing. Next dashboard, please. All right. And another analytical view is the waste dashboard, and this dashboard really reveals the sources that make up an organization's different waste streams. And once again, I just wanted to reiterate that whatever you display on a dashboard should really be important and material to your organization. Some companies are service-based, much like UL, where physical waste is not as material as something like air business travel. But what makes up the overall footprint could determine what you want to display on a dashboard. So the structure of this dashboard, however, is nonetheless very important in helping to have a more granular view of your data. So you'll see in this dashboard, it does display monthly data broken out by different waste types for hazardous and non-hazardous waste. And what's different with this dashboard is the ability to have a more detailed look in your data with the tables to the left. And what this does is show the live numbers that are being entered into the system. And the combination of views can really sometimes help paint a more detailed picture, especially for those who are much more analytical, engineer, or data scientist-based positions within an organization, and really understand the audience to have a better picture of the impact, and really allows you to dig a little bit deeper. And this can be done, once again, by drilling down more specifically by region or performance indicator, depending on how you want to slice and dice the data. Really, depending on the sector, waste hauling is a matter of compliance and cost. So one of the potential audience members for this particular dashboard would be for procurement. But as this also kind of ties in with the overall global sustainability strategy, and also site-specific targets that need to be met, the property managers and the individuals within the sustainability team of the organization could also have a benefit to looking at this waste dashboard. All right. And lastly, all the dashboards that we looked at so far are either strategic or analytical. So I really wanted to end on a dashboard that really brings the two together. And we have something within the Pure platform called Target Dashboards. And the Target Dashboard view is really a hybrid of the two that kind of marries strategic and analytical. And what this does is that it gives you a really good overview of what is currently being consumed, so really raw consumption data or just raw data as it's being entered into the system, and really compares that to what your targets are and how close you are and on track towards meeting that specific goal. Comparing the raw consumption values and target values are really based around the initiatives and goals that you set for the company. So if your particular organization is making your targets based around the sustainable development goals, this is certainly something that you can use to determine whether or not how close you are towards meeting that specific goal as part of your participation in that. But also being able to look at this data through different lenses of different time periods. So whether that be month to month, quarter to quarter, or year to year. And I suppose the key takeaway from all this is that really to understand your audience, know what is important to your internal stakeholders, because as we've seen, there are different personas that have different benefits to the different views that we've seen within each of these different dashboards. And a lot of data that data managers, sustainability analysts, energy managers deal with are not really easily digestible to folks who don't deal with that quantitative information on a regular basis. So to really be able to digest all that information to a pretty graph sometimes is a lot more approachable than just looking at hard numbers. So to really have an effective sustainability dashboard, it really needs to tell a story around the trajectory of the organization and the organization's path in the sustainability program that you all have. And that's it for me.
Great, great. Thanks so much, Ellen. This is Tim again. Those are great examples. Those are really great examples. One last thing that I wanted to cover before we get to some questions, because I'm sure there will be several based on what you've just presented. We're happy to be playing the role of the plumbers here, and that's really specifically what Urjanet does. You see all the value that you can get from a system like Pure that can give you insight and visibility and paint the pretty picture as opposed to just providing super hard numbers as Ellen just elaborated for us. But we are happy to be the guys that just simply fuel that car. It really makes it doesn't matter if you've got the coolest car in the world. If you can't put any gas, you don't have any gas to put in it. And that's really what our job is. We don't mind being the dirty plumbers, that's what we do. And it's because it's a really hard problem. And in fact, we've heard that that's one of the biggest reasons that sustainability programs fail, even after significant investments have been made, is simply because getting to the data is so hard, especially when you have to rely on people to do it. And those people are distributed geographically across a wide area. It can be really challenging. So let me talk just a minute about how this sort of integration works and how the Pure and Urjanet combination is put together. What we've done together is build an integration that seamlessly allows for the connection of your utility accounts data, the data that comes from the invoices being delivered to each of your locations, with the Urjanet platform plugged into Pure. All of the data that's coming from those sources comes automatically. It feeds the Pure system really without any human intervention at all. And that's really the secret. It starts with, as you're defining your locations within the Pure platform, part of the setup will be to identify the utility company that's being used at this location and what commodity types you're wanting to track. And you will set that up and configure that through the Urjanet integration so that once that's been done, the data for that location will just automatically show up whenever new invoices are posted by the utility company. We've got integrations currently with 4,000 to 5,000 different utility companies. We're adding dozens, if not hundreds, every month for more that people are asking for, and that's global. We've got integrations in 30 plus countries that we can automate grabbing data from utilities. And that does span water, gas, electricity, waste, as you saw there in one of Ellen's dashboards. And this data just automatically populates in the Pure system. So you can come in the morning and know the data that you're looking at is going to be the most recent data. No more chasing facilities managers around to submit invoices. No more distributing spreadsheets and waiting on building owners to populate their information and then forward that spreadsheet back so that an analyst can actually have the data they need to do the smart things that they're able to do. It's a completely hands-free system that once it's set up is something that just automatically populates itself. So that's the advantage. That's the, I guess, a bit of an overview of how the integration works. Another advantage of doing an automated system like this is that it does ensure that you've got clean data. And this is really important because it ensures that the reports are accurate. I've heard often that there have been, when you're struggling with getting the data from specific locations, in particular for waiting on people to do that, often people will not have the latest data when it's time for a report to be presented to someone internally or externally to the organization, and they just put placeholders in based on what last month's numbers were or what last year numbers looked like. And really the quickest way to lose enthusiasm within the organization and momentum for your program is to lose people's trust in what it is that they're seeing. And this is a big benefit of having an automated system that lets software take care of making sure the data is being received accurately, especially as you increase the granularity of the information that you want to see. If you're wanting to really dive into the details and not only see total consumption, but look at it across the bands of the time of use consumption metrics that you have. If you've got a tariff that is going to charge you differently at different times in the day, knowing in a month how much you used on peak, that sort of, as you get into low-level granularity information, relying on that data being high quality becomes harder if you're doing that without some automation. So I think to summarize the kind of the optimized use and data and dashboards together, the benefits that you see from that, it helps you efficiently manage a wide variety of sustainability metrics. And timely data is really the only way to make sure that you're not, I guess, this car that we've been able to put gas into, that you're not driving to a destination without knowing that you've got the right map that you're looking at. It lets you make decisions with the most up-to-date information. And if you're trying to make decisions based on they're going to drive efficiency, doing that with data that you're not sure of is going to be risky. It also allows you to be fast at creating reports timely reports that keep stakeholders informed are really beneficial. If you want to keep something in the front of someone's mind, then don't refresh it only every 3 to 6 months. And if people come up with new views or new spins of the data that they're interested in, having a system like this allows you to fulfill that request quickly without requiring an act of Congress or some kind of giant reassignment of resources, because you've got a system that helps you do that. Maybe you've got an owner that wants to see information just on their subset of buildings, or you want to get a glimpse at year-to-date water usage and costs by location because you're preparing plans for where to build your next facility, or maybe which facilities would best be consolidated into a single facility. So those sorts of things that are a bit more ad hoc, you can fulfill and really make your organization much more efficient at making decisions. And finally, when you have resources specifically focused on sustainability, and you're one of those fortunate organizations that has buy-in and is able to have a sustainability division and have experts that they've hired, you don't want them to be spending time hunting data. These are people that are really smart in the sustainability world. They're able to do very smart things when given the time. And so you want to let them focus on interpreting and using the data, not going out and getting the data. So I would bet that a lot of sustainability professionals today would tell you that at least part of their job today is finding the data, and even sometimes entering the data once they've been able to get it from whatever method they've had to resort to. So, this is just so that they can do the real job that they've been hired for in doing the analytics. So having an automation system, having a dashboard system that's all combined and neatly packaged really helps you stop chasing facilities managers. It stops the manual entry of data into these systems, and it lets your sustainability people really be data scientists rather than data chasers or data entry clerks. You want to use the IQs that they have and use the experience and knowledge that they have on doing things that are intelligent for your sustainability program. So I believe that wraps up the presentation piece of the webinar, and we wanted to leave some time for QA, which I believe we do have. So Angela, I'm going to hand it back over to you and see if we have any questions from the audience that we need to answer.
Thank you so much, Tim. And I'm going through the chat box. Thank you all for writing your comments and your questions here. And I'm hoping that perhaps you will be able to write more. If you look at your chat box, you'll be able to write to the entire audience. And I believe the only chats that I will see from you would be to the entire audience or to my name, Angela Kassler. But the ones that I do see, Tim, if I can start with you, many of our callers today are asking a vital question. How is the data typically entered into the system? And I really liked how you were going over how you don't need to chase down your facilities managers to let our sustainability professionals be able to just analyze, evaluate, and utilize that data.
Yeah, that's a great question. So how does the data get into the system? That's really the secret sauce of the Urjanet platform. The mechanics, there's a variety of ways that we can tap into the utility companies through their portals, through data feeds that they have. But the goal is that we're actually using the invoice itself as the data source, and the invoice itself is being processed by the software we've written. So that's what takes so much work on our part to write integrations to all these different thousands of different utility companies and invoice bill types. But how the data gets into the system is actually through our software. So we have these bots, if you will, that go out and look every day for invoices that have been posted for the locations and utility accounts we've been asked to monitor and deliver data for. And so the data gets stuck into the system basically by a daily delivery of data that we provide to the Pure platform that the Pure platform automatically ingests. So the only people part of that process is configuring at the beginning what the utility company is and what the utility account numbers are, the utility accounts within that utility are that you want to have tracked. And once that's done, it's all completely automated through software. And it's actually through the integration, through the data delivery that we make to Pure and the integration to that data delivery that the UL folks have made that gets the data into the system. So once configured, it's all being done by software. So you really literally can show up in the morning and know that the data you're looking at will have been populated with the most recent information available for that location.
That sounds really good, and here's why. It's just we all know that it's very painful to collect and enter all of this data, especially if you have multi-divisions, multinationals, and it just becomes so complex. And I like how you had mentioned clean data. So thank you so much, Tim. Ellen, we have a question from one of our expert callers. He or she is asking, how flexible is the Pure platform to be able to tailor my own dashboard?
Thanks, Angela. Yeah, so with the Pure platform, you are really able to, and we kind of encourage our clients to give us an idea of the type of dashboard that you do want to configure within the system. It is using all data that is being collected within the platform. And yeah, so I know that there was a question within the comment boxes as well asking if it was the same software package that where all the dashboards that we've shown today are created. And the answer is yes. Really, the analytical tools that we have within the Pure platform are very dynamic in a way where you can use and create different charts and dashboards with any style it is that you're looking for. And also, once again, catering it to the audience that you want to display that information to. So it's very likely that the dashboard that you create for an executive is going to be very different from an energy manager to a property manager to someone who just oversees all of sustainability for the organization. So really dependent on how you want to display that data and how granular of that information do you want to display to that particular individual or persona.
Thank you so much, Ellen, because a lot of people were really wondering about if you don't have a utility bill, I still need to manually enter that information. And that is just what's so daunting about rolling up all of your metrics into one area that includes solid waste, that includes transportation, that includes that equivalent to greenhouse gas. So thank you very much. I see another question. Several callers actually would like more details about the user interface needed and if they can data mine, export data for specific users, say by division, business unit, or department. So what kind of interface is needed?
Sure. So within the Pure platform, depending on where you want to access that data, dashboards are really just a highlighted area once you log into the Pure platform to view all data that is being entered in that is important to that particular individual. Within that interface, you are actually able to do a download from that interface to either see the charts that are on that dashboard or export a table or spreadsheet, depending on what you have as part of that view. Within the analysis tools that we have within the Pure platform, you are also able to slice and dice that data based around the what we call region structure of your organization. So if you decide to look at specific information that is based around your division or business unit or department, you can, like I mentioned, slice and dice that data based around that. Or if you want to look at it regionally, you can do that as well. It really just depends on the type of data that you want to export from the system and view from that perspective. So it's really flexible, very similar to the function that we have for building dashboards. You are also able to look at different aggregate values depending on how you want to view that data. So even divisionally or even within the business unit, if you want to look at a particular facility type where you're only looking at offices or you're only looking at warehouses, you can look at data that way and make your filter functions to extract data where it's meaningful to you.
Thanks so much, Ellen. And when we're looking at the meaningful data, that is really an important word that you just used because it really depends on what we're searching for. And the ability to use the data mining is super important to really capture what it is that we're looking for. I have another question here for Tim. Another one of our experts on the call today is asking how comprehensive is the platform and if he can add water data and other aspects such as those from utilities.
That's a great question. That's a great question. A lot of times people talk about utility data and instantly just think of electricity and gas, but for sure we have water as a key commodity type that we've been collecting data for since the beginning. So we have lots and lots of water integrations. In fact, I think we've seen, in some cases, we were doing a good bit of work with some international companies, particularly in the UK, and the water data over there appeared to be really one of the more difficult data sets to get to. And it was more around, I believe, over there, just maybe a lower level of sophistication in the water companies, the water providers, than existed for the large EDFs and British Gases of the world, who had more infrastructure and more data capabilities. So aggregating and gathering water data there really seemed to be a challenge for most people, because you were really dealing with the lowest level of technology, I guess, of all the different commodity types. In the U.S., one of the biggest struggles people have with water is maybe to some extent that they aren't quite as advanced in some cases as the power providers, but it's really a matter of the quantity of providers. There's thousands and thousands of water providers in the U.S., and I would venture to say that of the 4,000 or 5,000 integrations that we've written, and maybe not half, but probably close, are town of, city of, local municipal water and sewer providers. And that list just continues to grow. It's a very, very long tail, and those are the utility providers we're continuing to add. But yeah, we've done water for a while, and from how complete the data set is perspective, from a level of depth, or the amount of data that you get, we're gathering everything that shows up on the invoice. And so whatever level you'd like to see, line item usages, charge types of every possible kind, the breakouts between irrigation and sewer and regular water usage, all those details that do show up on invoices, we'll gather. So we will provide whatever level of depth in the data set that's made available on the invoices through the data feed as well. So that'll all be available to be made use of.
Thanks so much, Tim. That was an excellent answer, and it really helped me to understand that as well. We do have some time for some additional questions. Would it be okay if I read a few to you?
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you both. I'm not sure. I think that these are probably for Ellen. One of our experts on the phone is asking, would the dashboard view be able to show the demand charges based on energy tariffs and items like that? These are very detailed questions from experts.
Right. So depending on what you want to display, so as I mentioned from one of the previous questions, it really depends on the type of data that you do want to collect and display on the dashboard. So it's really our dashboards and the tools that we have to build charts that go into the dashboards are really data agnostic. As long as it's a data point or an indicator that you have within the system, you can display that on the dashboard. How you want to collect that data, whether it be data around a tariff or just anything that's related around your clean energy program, as long as there is a data point for a particular region over a set period of time, we can import that information in so that you can view it on a dashboard similar to the ones that we showed today.
Thank you. That's so helpful, and I hope that answered your question. I wondered, I have the same question myself. Someone on the call asked, is it possible that one day we may be able to integrate real-time data to integrate it with the software? More so a question probably for Tim.
Yes, there are. So our specialty at this point has been integrating with what the utility companies are providing. So the most real-time data that's made available by utility companies is typically day behind, and that's interval data. Normally it's specific consumption information. And in the US, it's generally 15-minute consumption information. And if utility companies are making that data available on their websites, because generally they're the ones that have installed the smart meter as the main meter, then yes, we can integrate with that. That's not going to be real time, but it will be day plus one, next day data. If you were talking about integrating specifically to sub-metered locations where you're having data actually wired back every 15 minutes, then that would be something that would probably be a more of a custom integration directly to the Pure platform. So I don't know, Ellen, maybe you can speak to what capabilities there are for that kind of granular, more real-time meter level.
Certainly, yeah. We do have a module called the metering module, where you are able to have real-time meter feeds, depending on what that cadence is, really up to the provider, where we have a built integration that we can build within the platform. So with that, with the real-time information, you can look at it from it's a little bit different from the dashboards that we showed today, but you can view the consumption readings at the cadence that you have the meter readings coming in at, and also do your analysis that way. So it is something that we have built within the Pure platform. If you want to have more information about it, you can certainly reach out to us. We can provide you with the right information that you'll need for that, if there is any interest.
Yes, thank you both. And I hope that all of our callers know that Urjanet and UL EHSS are happy to share these slides with you and the presentation after the call. It may take a little while to get those out to you. Are there any questions or last comments that you'd like to add, Tim or Ellen?
I don't believe so. It's been a pleasure, Ellen, to present this with you today. I think there's a lot of insight you've provided on what people can do when they get the right dashboards in front of the right people. So thank you, both of you, for helping participate in this webinar today.
Likewise, thank you, Angela and Tim. I think there are some more specific questions around go through and kind of a little bit more granular detail about how we collect data, but for the individuals that have those questions, we'll reach out to you with the specific information around that.
Thank you, Ellen. There are very specific questions that have to do with either their own facility or how the data is actually delivered and configured as far as greenhouse gas equivalents in scope 1, 2, and 3. So thank you so much for everyone who did ask all of those questions, and thank you, Ellen, for following up with all of our callers today. A lot of people did have questions if there's a revised bill, a utility bill, or a change, or some kind of edit to a meter, so meter readings, and so lots of different questions that we all know as we're managing our metrics that we have every day, these occurrences. And so we would all absolutely know that there are solutions for all of those. So I thank you, everyone, for joining the call today. This was really wonderful as a solution to being able to manage sustainability. I think we can all agree that this is probably one of the most daunting tasks that all of us have, is to be able to really look at the data and to be able to utilize it very quickly and to show the very rich reporting tools that exist today in dashboards such as these, where we can provide our senior management and our entire teams or business units with information that they can utilize to see their results and their own contributions to our sustainability goals. And so I thank you very much for your time today. And again, thank you both to our speakers. I wish all of you a wonderful day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much to Urjanet